Welcome to the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect Experience. I'm your host, Ruth Haskins. Sort of a quote. I read the news today. Oh boy. Some of you may recognize that as a fragment of a Beatles song. I found it very appropriate. Well, today I read the news, and oh boy. The headline was that O.J. Simpson reportedly died today at age 76 from cancer. You may be hearing this a week or two later or sometime in the future. But it is the topic, somewhat, of today's Reconnect Factor. The question is, how did I receive this news? Which is the question that many people who read that headline or heard it on the news or wherever, they had to, if they had any conscience, stop and ask them how they received the news. So there were details in the news report that I had forgotten about, but it did recall the day that I heard the news of his acquittal for murder. I was standing in the newsroom of a major television station with another woman of color. We were the only two people of color in the newsroom. We were thrilled with the decision. However, when we stopped our joyful moment, we both noticed the deafening silence that surrounded us. So we turned around and looked at the people around us. We faced the people in that room who were all Caucasian. What we saw made us turn around and face the monitor again. Honestly, we did not think we would make it out of there unharmed. The unveiled hatred of our co-workers was shocking. But why should it have been? This is the United States, and we were in Maryland, which is the border state of the Mason-Dixon line. In retrospect, I have no way of knowing the truth of that situation, of what happened with O.J. Simpson and all of that. I don't know. Wasn't there, can't tell you, only what I heard, blah, 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 blah. Truth of the matter, only God knows the truth. And he and his son are the final judges. I can take my hands off that. I can take my mind off it. It's not my affair. However, my takeaway is this. That particular incident brought to the forefront the great American dilemma: race, hatred, and violence. It reiterated what men have said during the decades of my life. Malcolm X made the case that the chicken had come home to roost when JFK was assassinated. And he didn't mean that JFK deserved to die or that he was happy to see JFK die. What he was saying was that the history of the violence perpetrated on others in the growing of America had found an unexpected target. Violence begets violence. Basically, that's what he was saying. Alan Paton, in his book, Cry the Beloved Country, had one of his characters state, by the time the white man turns to love, the black man will have turned to hating. Lyndon Baines Johnson recognized this when he stated, as he was signing off on some civil rights legislation, "You can't legislate the hearts of men." How true is that? So from my point of view, the United States has just run out of excuses. Even though it is kept well undercover among the socially acceptable blacks in this country, there is a level of distrust in white people and what they say and what they do. Every overture of kindness or love is accepted with a grain of deeply ingrained mistrust. I don't know what white folks are thinking and feeling. I'm not white. But I would guess that among those with good hearts, there is an underlying fear of the future. For those who are white and think they are right, well, there are no words to express the depth of degradation in their hearts. Some things we as a country should just have gotten over by now, but we've missed all of our opportunities. A little bit more about that. I say that there are no more excuses for racial hatred or any form of prejudice in this country, and there really isn't. We have had time enough to work it out. We've had time enough to work it out, to change our thinking, to change our hearts, and to change the things that we do. But we refuse. This good earth that we stand on is blood-soaked because we refuse to yield to the God we are supposed to trust. You know that thing on our money? Yeah, in God we trust. But from looking at the history of the United States, from Plymouth Rock to Jamestown, one has to ask, which God are we talking about? And when I say this God, I'm talking with a small g. Regardless, for generations, the people of this country have had the opportunity to set matters straight in their minds, hearts, and in the affairs of the nation. It's almost sad to say that the United States is the great experiment for the betterment of humanity that has failed. The refusal to do what is right, as opposed to doing what is convenient and greasing the greedy palms, has changed what could have been a shining light for the world into a parody of non-greatness. This country was built on violence. The Pilgrims started matters off on the wrong side of peace when they massacred those who aided them in their survival. Those who landed the first Africans in Jamestown as slaves performed another form of brutal violence. Today, Native Americans still live on reservations and the earth that belonged to their forefathers. So-called African Americans, though we may rise educationally and economically, still do not have the rights of humanity assumed by their Caucasian counterparts. We know that at any moment, at any given time, if we go too far, we could have another Tulsa, Oklahoma. We know that at any moment, especially of late, all the gains we have made thus far can be swept away. The truth is, the hearts of men just can't be legislated, but they can be bought and paid for in a system that values money and power more than human life, the value system of this country. So I say there are no more excuses for the genocide of Native Americans and Africans enslaved and African Americans. Now further blood and tears are watering American soil as the debate over immigration continues. Again, it is conveniently forgotten that these so-called Mexicans are not only neighbors to the United States, but their ancestors are the original inhabitants of much of the southwestern United States and California. Yep, looks like that chicken has shown up again. I love this land, I do. I love it because it is a good and productive land. We have everything in this country that we need to have wonderful lives for anyone who comes here. But as it is, greed, power, and violence are the ruling state of mind and class of action. The United States has been given time after time to correct its course, and time after time it has refused. So it's not the land that's at fault, it's the people. From Plymouth Rock to Jamestown, to the Trail of Tears, the American Civil War, Willie Lynch, and the Mexican-American War, the injustice of the Black Hills down to this day of George Floyd, race riots caused by injustice and murder of Black men and women and children on whim because of the abuse of power. We are out of excuses. There is no excuse for this country. None. You can dress it up, you can sugarcoat it, you can do whatever you want. But this country is out of excuses. And I'll go a little deeper into that. We have had more than enough time to get it right. As I said earlier, we say, in God we trust. What God, little g, are we talking about? We make that claim, but the God who is the power that is, always has been, and always will be, wants to know which God are we serving. He even gave us the home court advantage. And some of you will get this, some of you won't. But the God of the heavens, the sovereign of the universe, has given America a home court advantage. He made the United States the location of his earthly organization. Since the late 1900s, his word has gone out to all those who will listen. It has done for many what the laws of this land cannot do. So, with the death of O.J. Simpson, no doubt there will be conversations. Some will be benign. Some conversations will raise the same questions that were uttered years ago. Some conversations will expose the same racial hatred my colleague and I faced when we turned around and faced our coworkers moments after O.J.'s acquittal for murder. All this said, it really is time for us to remember and to examine our hearts in the moment, the here and now. Has our heart condition changed? Not the person next to us, not our families, not the neighborhoods. My heart condition. What is my heart condition? When I think about justice for all. Am I still harboring hateful feelings and beliefs? If we are Black, Native American, or Mexican, have we turned to hate those who once hated and abused us, while those ones have turned to honestly trying to love? Think about that. The shoe is not on the other foot all the time. Sometimes those of us who have really experienced racism, our hearts aren't right either. Racism, prejudice, violence against your person for no reason does things to you. It does something to your heart when you see your family abused, when you see your neighbors killed for no reason other than the color of their skin. We all, every one of us in this country, has to take the time and do a real examination of who we are right here, right now. O.J.'s death presents an opportunity. More than just a thought. This is the Reconnect Factor, the podcast of the Power Play Reconnect experience. Thank you for listening.